All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. So happy to have you guys here today. Dave and I are really excited to go over, listing rules and MLS tips. So just in case you have not met us before, have not seen us at one of the meetings, here we are. My name is Melissa Backey. I'm the Senior Systems Trainer for MetroList, and we have Dave Howe.
Yeah, I'm here. I actually was waiting in anticipation. I am super happy to be here. I'm Dave Al. I've been on a lot of the weekly calls with all of you, and happy to be here with Melissa to talk to you about MetroList MLS rules.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dave. Hey, one quick housekeeping tip. Please feel free to use the questions tab to communicate with us today. We have the amazing, the incredible, the one and only Kristen Summer on the line, and she's going to be fielding those questions. If there's anything she feels we need to address at the end, we will be absolutely going over those and touch base on those questions. So again, big round of applause for Kristen this morning, and she's our Vanna White for today. So we're so happy to have you. Thanks so much, Kristen. Appreciate that. So let's go ahead and we're going to go through our itinerary of what we're going over today. And Dave and I are going to be passing back and forth this class, which we are really excited to go over some MetroList tips, some rule tips. So let's go over our itinerary for today. So we're going to talk about how to create a scheduled hot sheet. I love that. I feel like it's a really great value add for you guys. And so I'll be going over that really quick little tip on it. Then Dave's going to be going over some best photo practices. The Cloud CMA flyers. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go over the Cloud CMA flyers here. You're going to see on market date. We're going to be going over the OMD, okay? And we're going to go, Dave's going to walk us through all the on-market date, and we're even going to go over a really cool informational calendar and how that plays out. Home snap heat maps. I want to talk quickly about that, okay? So we're going to go over the home snap heat maps. And just a quick little show and tell. And then last but not least, showings today versus tomorrow. Dave's going to address that and give you a little more insight. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about scheduled hot sheets. So let's jump into the system. So here I am at the MLS dashboard. And what I'm going to do today is we're going to go through and I'm going to go ahead and we're going to access the Prospector Plus system. And I want to show you how to utilize your heat maps. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that here, or excuse me, your hot sheets. They both start with H's. Bear with me. So here, I'm going to go to searches and I'm going to go to hot sheet. And hot sheets are great. What they're used for is to allow you to keep your finger on the pulse of the market. They're a fantastic little search that you guys can run. And I want to show you how I see agents leverage them. I'm even going to show you how to schedule a hot sheet, whether you want to send that to yourself with latest market activity or to a client. So let's go ahead and click on searches, and then I'm going to click on hot sheet here. So here you go. You're going to see we have our hot sheet search screen. Now I have a couple options. I can search by date range or days back. The reason for date range is well, you don't see the same group of listings twice, which is great. It kind of draws a proverbial line in the sand. And that way I just see changes from this particular date and time moving forward. Now I can also do a search for days back. And maybe I'm just wanting to see the changes in the market for the last 72 hours, or maybe even the last week. I can do a maximum of 15 days back. Now for today with my example, I am going to leave all changes unchecked. So leave blank for all, because I want to show you all of these great changes. Now, something else I'm going to not do today is I'm not going to choose statuses. For instance, let me share a little tip with you. New listings here. New listings, those can be active. New listings can be on hold already. They can be pending. They could even be, well, canceled from the MLS. So if I want to see the actual number of new listings, I'm not going to select statuses for today's example. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scroll down here, and we'll do for today residential. I'm not going to pick any property subtypes because it's going to show us all subtypes. Now let's focus on one county here. I'm going to click on the lookup icon, and I'm going to go ahead and let's check out Sutter County. I'm going to check all, and I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to see the market watch, and what we're going to be looking at here, we're going to look at the market for the last 7 days, all changes, no statuses, residential property, all subtypes for all of Sutter County. Now, if I do a preview count, you'll see I have 61 changes that I'm going to take a peek at. Now I could save and schedule right from here. I can also do that once I show you the results. So let's go in and check out results. So here, I'm going to click on view results. So right here under your hot sheet search results, you'll see in the last week in Sutter County, I have 21 new listings. Look at this one's pending, this one's pending, bring back up. So again, why I didn't choose statuses. Now I can see 2 that are back on market here, 2 decreases, 2 contingents, 16 pendings, and look, that one came back onto the market during that point in time. 14 closed. Now, with the hot sheet and this particular display format, it will actually show you 50 listings at a time. So we need to go to the next page. I'll use these little arrow buttons at the top. And we'll go to and view the remaining closed properties, the 2 expired, and inactives, which are canceled, and duplicate canceled, as you can see here. Now, what if I want to see this moving forward? Well, I have a few options. I can go ahead and click Save and Schedule. Now, you're going to see here, search will be saved with its current display and sort options. Click More to schedule the search to run automatically or modify additional options. So I could save this as my Sutter hot sheet. Or if I want to go ahead and click More, you're going to see it holds that name, and maybe I decide that I want to see this on a regularly scheduled basis. So I can go ahead and I can set up my schedule for daily or weekly if I'd like. So you'll see here, daily, I can choose to see that every day, every other day. It's whichever frequency works best for you. You can give it a subject if you'd like. So latest listing activity, or I can name this latest listing activity for Sutter County. Okay, you're going to see my start and end date, which I can absolutely modify. If I just want this to go for 6 months or 30 days, I can pick that end date right here under the calendar and shift that as I'd like. Okay. You're going to see here, I can pick the time of day it goes out, and it's just picking a current time here. Now, to me, I can send this just to myself as the agent, and I don't need to put any other information in here. Or if I would like to send this to a client, a recipient, if you will, I can go ahead and put in another email address right here, and it's going to look just like mine because it is, okay? And I can go ahead and click Save, and that would be a scheduled hot sheet. So this is going to run basically every 24 hours, and you're going to see here, it's going to come every single day. Here's the subject, my start and end date, the time it's going to be sent to me and my additional recipient, and I'm going to go ahead and click Save. So now, where do I retrieve that or modify it? Well, under searches, I can actually go here to saved hot sheets. And if I want to go ahead and modify, rename, or reschedule, I can absolutely do so. So I'm going to go ahead and click searches and saved hot sheets here. So if I want to go in and manage, you'll see that little link right at the top, manage saved hot sheet searches. Try saying that 10 times fast. It's not easy. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And you'll see here, as I scroll down, look, I can run, revise, delete. I can see which ones I currently have scheduled and even what their schedule is. At any time, I can disable these. With whatever I decide to apply to an individual hot sheet, if I make any modifications, I just need to click Save and Refresh here at the upper left-hand corner, and it will apply those changes. So you can see here as I go down, they're all in alphabetical order, and you can see I run hot sheets in multiple different areas here. Okay, so here's that setter hot sheet. Now, one last thing that I want to show you today before I turn it over to Dave is, if you want to take a peek at how these actually look, let's go ahead, and I have another window open here. And these are some of the latest listing activity for different hot sheets I have. So if I click on this cool thing, I log in first thing in the morning. Look at this one, comes at 7:37. This is my Folsom hot sheet, and it's going to tell me everything that's occurring in my farm or market area without having to log into the MLS. And I absolutely love it. So that was my quick tip on how to set up your hot sheet and how to leverage it. So what I'm going to do next is we are going to go back to the PowerPoint, and I'm going to toss it to Dave, and we're going to talk about Rule 11.4, 11.5, and photographs in the MLS.
Yeah, and thank you, Melissa. And that session you just did was fantastic, because I can't tell you how many agents I've talked to in the past where they've gone in and they didn't know about the scheduled hot sheet, and they didn't necessarily have a client, but let's say they were interested in what's going on in Plymouth Lake. So what they would do is they go and set themselves up as a prospect and have it try to feed them the information that way. And the distinction here is significant but subtle. And the hot sheet, scheduled hot sheet that you just showed, it shows or sends that information to the agent in the agent format that they want, which would include some of the fields, additional fields, confidential type information that an auto prospecting search would not reveal. So I think that is just such a fantastic tip, and it is super important. Really nice capability that Rapatoni's built into their system. All right, so now what we're going to talk about are photographs. This is kind of a broad subject, but I'm going to go through MLS rules 11, 4, 5, actually, and 6. And really where it starts, specifically in 11, 4, and 5, is with the rights, the intellectual property rights of those photographs. When you actually schedule to have a photographer come out, they will come out and shoot those photos of the property, whether it's static photos, virtual type tour things, drone photography. In almost every instance, they're going to have an agreement that they're going to have you sign with them. And it's very important that you become familiar with the language within that agreement. So what happens with that first bullet points is the intellectual property of that photography actually could not lie in your possession, but could be in the possession of others. So if you are going to use or extend or utilize those photos in other means, it's always a good idea to check to make sure in those agreements that you have the permission and the rights to that information. Now, on bullet number 2, one of the instances that we run into periodically is that you'll pay for the photography and sell that listing, and then sometime in the future the property's picked up again by another broker, listed and sold, and they see the photography sitting in there, or the photographs or virtual tours or drone stuff sitting in there, and they go, well, hey, it's there, I'm just going to go ahead and use it. The rules are pretty specific with this, that they would not be or have the rights to that information without actually having permission from not only the agent that previously paid for those, but potentially the photographer or the entity that actually created the imagery for that particular listing. So sometimes we'll get claims where, hey, they used my photos, and the rules specifically prohibit that without proper permission. And obviously the photos cannot be given to the new listing agent by the seller. Sometimes they think they can do that. Now, with all that said, if you or the seller have taken those yourself, then really none of this typically applies. If there is a problem with the photos, and I would say first and foremost with today in the compliance department, if there is a issue with one of the photos, you might get a notification. I would say the primary one that you will receive might be a reference to a real estate sign you are actually taking a picture of what is being sold. And so that is not including a real estate sign, sitting, perpendicular to the door with, the sign and the agent's name sitting there. That's one you might get a notification on. And pretty much when you're taking pictures of a property, it's actually, and I think we have the rule here, but actually the photo is actually the picture of the property or from the common location that you're taking that photo from. And that's significant from the standpoint that we don't currently allow lifestyle photos within the multiple listing service. That may change in the future, but today, really, the general guidelines with respect to photography is it's of what is being sold. A cautionary statement with best practices, we've got these sitting in here, watermarks, pictures of people tend to be of significance. We've seen some pretty good photos in the compliance department, and Melissa and I have joked about them, about people taking pictures in the bathroom, not knowing that there's a mirror there and you can see things. And I guess to add to one other note on this list that I'd like to point out is an issue that we've seen and we get on a fairly regular basis with respect to drone photography. And there are very specific rules with the FAA and trespass and privacy. And most of the people that are doing drone photography as a profession are aware of this. But you cannot take drone photography of anything other than the subject property. And that becomes very difficult and challenging when you get into a subdivision. You get up to a certain elevation and you now can start seeing children playing in the pools next door and other properties and people in those photos, which are not allowed, most of which gets blurred out or can be easily blurred out with a few tips and tricks or tools within the video photography that's taken from a drone. Virtual staging is one of the areas that you're going to see more and more of. There's a company out there called Box Brownie. It's been very popular on the CAR scene, but aspect ratio and again, what is being sold is very, very important. You have interior versions of this and exterior. Exterior are probably ones that we see more of. That would be, trees where there's no trees existing. You might have a colored lawn, pavers. I actually recently saw one where there was a bare piece of land with a double wide on it. And basically the explanation was, this is what this property could look like if you built this type of structure yourself. So you have to have accurate depictions. And then the interior, when you go inside the house, you're seeing, it has been statistically proven that staging a property does equate to a better sales percentage or higher sales prices, because there's a lot of people out there, including myself, that really have no imagination with respect to decorating a room. And that can be done either physically, which does come at some expense, or for a lot less money virtually. And if you do engage and do something virtually, just make sure that the aspect ratio of the furnishings and the furniture is or corresponds or makes sense with that room size.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. I mean, you guys wouldn't even, I'm sure you guys can imagine, you're in real estate. Dave and I and our whole team have seen some really incredible pictures over the last few decades working for the MLS. So it's always a fun thing to look at, to go through photos. So appreciate that information so much.
Yeah, and remember to put the toilet seat down. That's one that we get quite a bit of.
Oh my goodness. I hear that from agents all the time. It's kind of a pet peeve. They're like, oh, I see the toilet seat's up. Yes, absolutely. So speaking of photos, we thought it was a great segue to jump into something else that I love to show, because they're quick, they're easy, they're beautiful. They're the Cloud CMA flyers. So let's take a peek at those. So I'm going to jump back into the system here. And I'm going to briefly walk you through the Cloud CMA flyers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a recent search, and this is something that I ran earlier today for this exact example. So I'm going to go to this standard search here, and it will automatically run. I love recent searches. It allows you to run up to the last 20 searches you have in the MLS. So it's really great if you kind of want to quick and easy get back to something very, very, again, very quickly. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this listing number. Now I can do a flyer for one listing at a time. So I'm going to click on this one right here, and let's go ahead and I'm going to copy this listing number. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is let's go back to our home dashboard. Now I have my single sign-on right here on your Prospector Plus dashboard, and I can access Cloud CMA from here. I could also go under products right here, and again, could go ahead and access Cloud CMA. The third place that you can actually launch that program from is your MLS dashboard under Agent Marketing Tools. So you have, 3 ways to jump into that. So let's go ahead and click on this one. They all take you to the same program. So I'm going to click on Cloud CMA. Now I'm going to jump into the flyers. And so you're going to see here, it's going to launch the Cloud CMA dashboard. And we teach whole classes on the CMA, the buyer's tour, the property reports. Please sign up for one of those. But today, let's take a peek at the flyer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the flyer here, and we're going to create flyer. So the first thing you'll see is once I create that, well, I have to give my, the client a name here. I have a client. This client and I go way back. His name is Mo Money, okay? So I like Mo. We got private notes, and now what I'll do is I'll add that address or MLS number. And so here's that number that I just grabbed from running my search in Prospector Plus. So I can fetch listings. I have this button here, green button in the upper right or kind of lower middle, and I'm going to go ahead and fetch that individual listing. Now, the beautiful thing about Cloud CMA is no matter what you're doing in here, it's very intuitive. These steps are always the same: criteria, listings, customize, and publish. So now we're in listings. I can see that property there. I can see where it is, streets, cross streets. I can actually zoom out. It's a lovely little view here. And I have that property. Now, if I want to see more details, I can click on this link here and it will show me further details in regards to that listing. I can look at the description and the features. If I wanted to update the description, I could do so from here. And sometimes you will have to decrease the property description to allow it to fit on a flyer. You can actually do that also in the next step when we go to customize our flyer as well. So you can do it before or after, but right there, that's the details. So you can see, again, go back and kind of preview all the details and all the information on that listing. Now let's go ahead and go to customize so I can show you the really amazing flyers you have access in here to. You have access to over 20 different flyers. They really have any color and theme that you can imagine. So here, let's talk about the themes. This one here is a modern theme. These are something that was just released in the last few years. I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And so we have these modern themes. And again, they have a really any color scheme you can think of. So you can see all the different color schemes they have. They also have what are called these classic themes. So this was their initial classic view and the flyers you had access to initially when using Cloud CMA. So if I click on this, you can see they look a little different than the modern, but absolutely have the option to use both. So let's go ahead and check out the classic here very briefly. I'm going to choose this theme, and this is blue and green. You're going to see I have a layout here, and this is just showing the last layout I selected. Yes, that is my agent photo, lovely Miss Audrey Hepburn. But let's take a peek at some other layouts. It gives you a really great visual of layouts that you can choose from. So let's go ahead and maybe I want to select here this flyer number 2. So I can do that. I'm going to go ahead and choose it, and you'll see that it's going to shift and it's going to show me that exact layout with that color scheme. My logo, I've added that into my settings, you guys, by the way, in here. You can even see the remarks at the bottom and my contact information. Okay. You have the option to modify your font. So I can come in here, and if I have a font that I like, I feel it's a little more visually pleasing, I can choose that, and you'll see it will shift that on your flyer. Now, again, if I need to modify the description, like I told you, you can do that on the fly. Now, let me show you, and let's take a quick peek at the modern theme. So here, if I come back to the theme and I want to go back to our modern themes, so let's scroll back up, and how about we do modern red and black. Now you're going to see here these flyers, and I've had a lot of agents notice really a lot less color than the classic flyers that they have. You can see here it a little bit smaller photo of your avatar is what they call it, or your agent photo. You can see all your information pulls through. Looks really pretty clean, something great that you can put in your flyer boxes. You'll see here, these are the various layouts that you have access to. And again, if I want to go in here and I want to choose, how about flyer number 8, I can see how that layout looks super professional. Love how the photos are laid out. Now I can also change the font with this one. So if I want to come in and again, modify that font to something that I maybe like a little better than what I have on here, I can do that, and you can see how it modifies it for that individual flyer. Now this one, you can actually change the title. So if this was just listed, or investment opportunity, for lease, open house, coming soon, new to market, it's pretty cool. You can change the title and it will modify it right here. I've had agents ask if they could type in something custom, and no, you just can select from this drop down here, and they give you quite a few options to choose from. Now, lastly, again, you can click on the description and modify that. Some of your descriptions here, depending upon the flyer you choose, will cut off. So you may need to modify that. Question I get is, if I change that agent's description, or if I change my description here, will that change in the MLS? It absolutely won't. So this is just, again, for that flyer, so it will fit. Now, last step is I can go ahead and click Publish Report. I'm going to go ahead here and click Publish. And you're going to see it's giving me some sharing options. I can copy this as a PDF link. I can email this right from here. Or if I want to go ahead and view this as a PDF, it's going to show exactly as it showed on my screen. But I'm ready to go ahead and save this to my computer, or print right here at the upper right hand corner. So I love, love, love the flyers, and they're so quick and easy to use. Now, if you find that you want to update your photo or your logo, you're going to see here, and let me go ahead and I'm going to point this out with the highlighter. These are your settings in Cloud CMA. I absolutely suggest going into your settings and adding your avatar, your photo, adding your logo, adding your contact information, so it shows as you'd like on your individual flyers. So next, let's go ahead and we're going to head back to the PowerPoint presentation. And we're going to talk about on-market date. So I'm going to pass it back to Dave, and we're going to go through on-market date and what is on-market date and what are the benefits, Dave?
Well, fantastic, Melissa. And Cloud CMA is the #1 CMA program in the entire United States because of those features that you so well showed there. And aside from having that one selection that said coming soon, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, what a fantastic program. So all joking aside, we have a rule within the MetroList MLS system, which is a rule that's a mandatory submission rule, and it requires that listings get entered. And the broker, your broker, as an agent, really needs you to do that, and doesn't want to let the opportunity go to secure that listing. And the on-market date turns out to be the sharpest tool in the shed, if you will, in accomplishing this, because what it does is it overcomes the number one objection to listing, is that I'm just not ready yet, or I'm not ready yet, or I don't want anybody in my place, or I'm going on vacation and I won't be back for some time. And traditionally what agents have done is they've gone in and said, okay, Melissa, understand that, you know, you and your husband are going up to Tahoe for a couple weeks. Why don't we just sign a listing agreement and I'll modify the go live date of that contract? Well, that's not very effective in a case where, let's say Melissa goes up and she's next to another condo or something, and Sherry's in there with her husband, and Sherry makes really good margaritas and turns out to be a hotshot real estate agent in the area. And next thing you know, Melissa's coming back hat in hand saying that, I've already actually listed or potentially could have already sold the property in a market such as it is today. So the on-market date, the way that this works is that you, with a seller, if you are prompted with one of those objections, have a tool which allows you to put the listing into the MLS within the 3 days that we allow in the MLS. So you secure the listing, you secure the terms, you get the seller locked into that agreement for the term of that agreement. And then when you enter the listing into the multiple listing service, again, which you have to do within 3 days, you get to a point where it prompts you for an on-market date. And when that happens, it's actually asking you, when do you want that to be exposed to the consumer? When do you want that to go out through syndication? When do you want everybody to know, or when do you want that listing to light up in the eyes of all? And the cool thing about the on-market date is it allows you to go in here and, dealing with those seller objections, extend the date out into the future. So Melissa says to me, my husband and I, we're going to go on vacation for a couple weeks, and then when we get back, we need a week to straighten things up. Not a problem. I can simply go in and take the listing, put the future on market date out to a maximum of 120 days. Lots of agents do that, even though they have no intention of holding it off that long. And then the really cool thing that happens, which is sometimes difficult to have occur, is that conversation with the seller about things that you are going to be doing as a real estate professional, that they take time, and things and expectations that the seller might have for you of things that they need to do, fixing a fence, a sprinkler, putting out the sunset magazines, that kind of thing. And so this allows you to overcome those situations by being able to work with the seller with a future on market date. And then the cool thing about this date is you can, like playing a trombone, if Melissa and her husband say, we got back from vacation, a week wasn't enough time, we need an extra week, then what we're going to do is extend that on market date out for a period of time, and basically slide that in or out based off of the need. Now, Melissa and I have a schedule. We say, okay, we got all our work done. We're back from vacation. My husband and I are done fixing things around here. And now we're agreeing that this Friday, we're going to go live with this listing. And so what I would do is I would go in and I would set the date for this Friday, and also have scheduled showings that I would have communicated with Melissa that we're going to set up scheduled showings over the weekend. And when Friday comes, the date will automatically trigger the listing to be published at that point in time. And what happens then is all of the hot sheet reports light up, the programmed hot sheets that Melissa talked about earlier light up, syndication lights up, all the broker websites light up with that brand new listing. And man, are we ready for activity to occur on the weekend. And in a market like this, Melissa, I can assure you, because we work together, utilizing this on market date, we're going to have some offers for you to look at on Monday. One of the things you need to understand from a rules standpoint is it's an on-market date. And people ask me, well, what does that mean? And then I quickly respond, well, what do you think marketing is? Well, I don't know is the answer. And You can say, well, would you consider a sign marketing? Sure. Postcard? Yes. Website? Yes. So all those things constitute marketing, and ultimately, um, uh, yeah, ultimately could be a problem. So during the on-market date period, you're not allowed to actually conduct any marketing whatsoever. If you do get caught, it's a little bit of a pinch. It's a $250 fine from that occurrence. So a couple bullet points here. Again, just to recap, on-market date can go from 1 to 120 days out. If you want it to go live, you just set it as the same day as the day you put it into the MLS. You have total control of when it goes live. And again, that's that conversation you have with the seller. And then ultimately, when that date is reached, it's viewable by everybody, all agents and brokers. And most importantly is that days on market will display as 0. Now, I will tell you an error that agents make on a regular basis, and that is, instead of using the future on market date, they submit a seller exclusion, which I'll talk about here in just a few minutes as a distinction. But the most important takeaway here is it gives you a great tool to overcome objections that I'm not ready to list right now because the property is not ready for sale. Could be a lot of reasons in there. And then it gives you all of this time that you can work with that seller on getting the property for sale. And then ultimately, when it goes live, you're not penalized with a days on market display as something other than 0. So that pretty much covers that particular section on market date. Melissa, did you have any questions on it?
Well, you know what? What if I enter the listing with a future on market date? Can I place a for sale sign or a coming soon sign on the property? You know, honestly, during training, Dave, I get this question all the time.
Yeah. Well, I would go back to what constitutes marketing, and for sale and coming soon do constitute marketing, and that would not be allowed with a future on market date. That would trigger a citation to go to that individual if they did that. So there you go. No, the on market date is the on market date. Melissa, by the way, is a Dave Howe translator. She's certified in this skill, and she does an excellent job of it.
Perfect. All right. So Dave and I, we came up with this calendar. We wanted to kind of talk about, you know, the 3-day rule and on market date. But before we get into that, I mean, Dave's talking about me taking vacations left and right, which is really making me want to take a vacation. So let's look at a calendar, right? One little side tip that I wanted to share with you guys is, especially with listing input, we're really strongly encouraging you to input listings into 2 systems. So really the Yuba MLS database and the Prospector Plus database for the most exposure possible. Prospector Plus database, your listing can be seen by 55,000 agents across 7 different MLSs. And within both databases, those listings are going to hit auto prospecting and agent searches. So again, allowing your listings to get the most exposure possible. So, and again, we're talking about listing input and on market date. So I felt like I wanted to bring that up. Now, I have a question for you, Dave, and we're going to talk about on market date and kind of 3-day rule here. How long do I have to get the listing into the MLS?
Excellent question, Melissa, and certainly we get this all the time in compliance. So as an example, if I took your house and I listed it over the weekend and we entered it into the MLS on, or took that listing on Monday the 2nd, just as an example. So this is our listing day. I now have, under the MLS rules, 3 calendar days beyond that date to get it into the MLS. So Tuesday would be day 1, Wednesday would be day 2, and then Thursday would be day 3. So I would actually have to have that listing into the MLS no later than that 3 calendar days beyond that day. And that is really important to understand. So again, if I listed it Monday at 5 o'clock, I got Tuesday at 5 o'clock, Wednesday at 5 o'clock, Thursday at 5 o'clock. technically the calendar runs on a midnight clock, but you would have until Thursday to enter that listing. And those are calendar days. Now, the other part of the rule there, if we want to take another example here, is let's say that we took the listing on Thursday. Okay, so listing date was Thursday, and I had day 1 is Friday, day 2 is Saturday, and day 3 lands on a Sunday. Well, just like the CAR contracts, we have a provision in there that basically goes off the language that says that any act, precedent, or action determined on it that would need to be executed on a date, and that date falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or potentially even a legal holiday, the actual date for entry shall be the next day. So in this case, the requirement of the 3-day rule would, if it landed on a Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday, would be the following day. In this case, since it fell on Sunday, you wouldn't be required to enter it until Monday. Monday would be the day.
Awesome.
Love the little stars.
Yeah, I'm really good at drawing them. Um, so thank you for that information. That is really amazing information. Love showing that on the calendar because I'm very visual. I know a lot of a lot of us are very visual. So and I want to kind of talk about something you already brought up, but let's go ahead and run a scenario again so we can all see it visually. So you've been talking about my vacations a lot. And so what if, Dave, I wanted to list with you, but Brian and I are going on vacation, on this calendar, what would you recommend? And maybe we're going to be out of town for 3 weeks or 2 weeks. 3 weeks is pushing it, right? But let's say we're out of town for 2 weeks. But I just don't want my property to show to the public. As my agent, what would you recommend?
Okay, well, first of all, having this tool in my hip pocket, when you tell me, hey, I'm not going to be ready, I'll list with you in 3 weeks, that's great, but it leaves a little bit of vulnerability on my part that potentially Brian and Melissa could change their mind. So I'm going to want to get you under contract. My broker definitely wants me to get you under contract, and I don't get paid unless I do that. So let's say you take off to Cancun on Monday the 2nd. You fly out on the 2nd. You say, hey, I'm not going to be back until the 23rd. And when we get back, that's going to be the vacation return day. I want a few days to decompress. So literally, I think we want to get going on this listing sometime after the 30th. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Brian and Melissa and say, there is absolutely no problem doing this. There's a lot of things that I have to do. I have to get signs ordered. I need to get up the scheduled showings thing, get that going, flyers, input. There's going to be a lot of fine tuning that we're going to do with the comments within the listing. I got photography firms that need to come in here. We can't really have the photographer in there until after you're done with your work, Melissa. But what we'll do is I'll list the property, and I'm going to utilize a feature within our MLS system known as a future on market date. So I'm going to input it the same night, Monday the 2nd, and I'm going to put a future on market date out, let's say 28 days or out to the 31st of the month. So I put a future OMD out there. Now, during this period of time, I've done a couple things. One is I've satisfied the 3-day rule that MLS requires. So I've satisfied that. 2 is the only individuals that can see this are my broker and myself, or it can only be viewed within the firm. 3 is I've locked the days on market counter from accrual, meaning it's not going to accrue during this period of time. And ultimately, when we get ready when we're both ready, Melissa, you say you're going to return on the 23rd, but let's say, for example, you're going down to Cancun and, oh my gosh, there's a hurricane down there, and you decide to come back early, and you come back on, let's say, the 16th. Okay, and so you arrive on the 16th, you work your way out to about the 19th or whatever, and you call me up and you say, you know what, I'm ready. Are you ready? And I say, well, hey, in 24 hours notice, I can have a sign out there and we can start working on potentially getting this thing ready for the weekend. So if you're ready now, I can go in, modify my listing, update the on market date to the 20th, Okay, and so I set the on-market date, I've slid it back in time, keeping in mind I originally had it set for the 31st. I can move that date back and forward as long as it's not into the past, and be ready with that plan with the seller. The cool thing here is that you're having a real relaxed, something that should be a cool moment in time for this seller to have an opportunity to work with their real estate agent. Gets to show your professionalism in working with them and being ready without anybody, losing their mind or panicking over time constraints that really go away when utilizing the on-market date in this manner.
Awesome. I love it. It's such a great tool, something that, as a trainer, I see agents leverage all the time. And I love showing that calendar representation of it. So thanks so much, Dave.
You bet.
So next, what I want to go over quickly here, you guys, and it's a little video recording of HomeSnap Pro. And I want to show you, has some music and some information, a quick little tip on heat maps. One really little tiny bit of information I want to share with you guys. If you want to do a whole HomeSnap training, myself, Kristen, Anthony, we're available to do free training. It takes about an hour to go over, but the heat maps are awesome. They're a great way to leverage this app that you guys have access to. And you'll see things like likelihood to list. You can see interest rates. Well, let me show you the video and you can take a quick peek for yourself.
I think now's the time I jump in with my ukulele and start playing the music in the background. But you getting the idea. It's working out good.
All right, so as you're going to see here, it's going to show you some other things. You'll see ownership time, which is really, really great. I can see in this neighborhood how long people have owned their properties. As I go down, I can even see cash buyers or, properties that were bought via mortgage. We're going to slide down a bit further. You'll see here, once I toggle that, the mortgage age, so I can see whether their mortgage is 0 to 5 years or 20 plus years, or maybe has no mortgage. One of the last toggles with the heat maps, which is awesome, is the mortgage interest rate. So you can see anyone that has an interest rate of 0 to 5 or 0 to 3% down to 10% plus. And again, you're able to click on those individual properties to see that information. But, once you're done, you can click apply, and any of those heat maps you turn on, it's going to show on your HomeSnap Pro app. It's awesome. Love it. It's a great tool that you guys have within HomeSnap. So I hope you check it out, and wanted to just share that little quick tip video on that. So thanks for watching that with me. The next thing that we're going to go over today, and I'm gonna pass it up to Dave, and we're going to wrap up with showings today versus tomorrow. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into that. So take it away, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Mel. And the biggest issue, I guess, if you were to talk to compliance staff, we certainly have the pleasure of doing that every day here at MetroList. You pick up on trends that are happening out in the marketplace. And I think that everybody recognizes the fact that we're in a moment of incredible low inventory and aggressive showing activity out of necessity. I mean, I've had several friends who have kids that have given up pretty much because they've not been able, multiple offers, multiple times, have not been able to get into properties. And it really has an impact on behavior. We also have specific rules with respect to COVID and the Cal OSHA stuff. And, we started about this time last year with 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And then we went through, 10 months of weirdness. And now we're starting to emerge and have some optimism. And the pent up restrictions, or the restrictions that have caused people to feel pent up, has really been incredible for the real estate market. The real estate market has not slowed, and contrary to that, the buyers are out there in force, and the sellers are out there reaping the benefits of over asking price on many deals. But for the most, I guess we need to start with MLS Rule 9.0 showings, and that properties must be available when they go active on the MLS. You cannot delay the showing for any other reason than it being a tenant right or a potential hazardous condition. We certainly have hazardous conditions right now that have been amplified with the requirement of your PAD forms and those types of things. But showings of property are controlled in a variety of ways. One of the primary permissions, or the rights of trespass for showings, are granted through the listing agreement under the showing instructions. So you might have seen a, call listing agent for more details, and you do that, and then you are asked to go into a scheduled showing software program of different varieties that are out there, and ultimately scheduling that activity to occur. Now, what's happening is that we have lots of folks who just are starting to ignore those types of instructions, and this really creates a problem from the standpoint of making your seller comfortable, understanding that there's not going to be people coming into their house that are going to be unprotected or unmasked or those types of things, and being just generally unhealthy or following the guidelines for showing of properties. And in some cases that's occurring. We have to almost self-govern ourselves in our particular areas, that if these do happen, or these types of showings do happen, I'm going to do my best to make sure, I think I've heard this from real estate agents, listing agents, I'm going to do my best to make sure that I do everything I can to get people through as efficiently and effectively and as safely as possible at all times. And at the same time, ensuring that the rights I've secured from the seller to provide that access are respected as well. And that's kind of one of those touchy areas. Another thing that's happening is a lot of the buyers are coming in from out of area. This is COVID related as well, where people are figuring out they don't have to live where they work. And what has happened here, you can look at this in one of two ways. And I kind of throw this out to real estate agents. Melissa and Kristen do the same thing. Get great examples back from you all. What do you do when this happens? But let's say you get a buyer's agent call you from Monterey, and they say, hey, I want you to show your listing to my client, or not only show your listing to my client, but now we're in escrow. I want you to be there when the inspections happen, all those types of things. Well, you can look at that as being, something you may not want to engage in, but there are just as many real estate agents out there that take that as a real opportunity. I've been given permission to be in front of their client, and I can show them what a professional I am in this market and potentially get them a little bit longer term down the road. We certainly are watching the Cal OSHA guidelines closely. CAR has gone largely silent on this, with I think that with anticipation of what Gavin Newsom has done recently, saying that we're going to open the state up on June 15th. So we're definitely in a position where we're seeing post-COVID transition beginning, and we're going to react and respond to that. But again, this is about being respectful. It's about the professionalism. And if there's an instance where you see either of one of those tenants being broken, then certainly hit the report of violation link, and we will follow up with those potential situations. Melissa?
Yep, thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate that information immensely. So you guys, just to, one thing we want to throw out first off, do we have any questions? It looks like Kristen was able to answer any of the questions you have, but any questions that you guys have in regards to anything that we covered today, I'll give you a brief moment. What I wanted to do before we conclude this is let's recap really briefly what we spoke about. So thanks here for bearing with me. So we went over how to create a scheduled hot sheet. Love that, you guys. Leverage it. It's a phenomenal little tool that you can see use to see what's going on in your farm or market area. Really helps you keep your finger on the pulse of the market. Dave talked about all those great tips on best photo practices. I went in and showed you how to pull those really beautiful cloud CMA flyers. I think they're fantastic for marketing. Dave and I kind of both together, really, he took the lead, but we talked about on market date and the benefits of using that particular tool in the MLS, which hands down such a great tool. And we went over the HomeSnap heat maps. HomeSnap is such a great app, but that's just one component, the heat maps, and they allow you to do lots of fun, various things from seeing properties that are likelihood to list to how long people have lived there to interest rates. Awesome little tool, so explore that. And then Dave went over very important showings today versus tomorrow. So again, you guys, I'm not seeing any other questions or anything to that effect. So I want to just wrap up with here. Thank you guys so much for your time today. Oops, excuse me. Sorry, I thought I hit play on that. Sorry about that. So again, thank you guys for your time today. My name is Melissa. Here's my phone number and my email address. Feel free to reach out if you guys would like free training. 5 or more agents will do free training, myself, Chris, and Anthony. And there's Dave's information, his personal home phone number, just kidding, and his email address. You can reach out to him at dave@metrolist.net. Hey, we'll stick around for a few more minutes in case you guys have any other questions. Otherwise, you guys make it a great rest of your day and hope to see you guys in a training very soon.
Yeah, and thank you all so much. We do work hard on the compliance side as an educational arm. Melissa's and her team is working on systems. We have various training that we have in different areas on the compliance side. Believe it or not, it's not all a traffic ticket. It's a lot of education, and we really want to get folks set on the right path to helping us ensure data integrity. So thank you very much.